Well, welcome back to Get Connected, and this week's edition of Between Two Nerds, I have two special guests with me. So please introduce yourself. To my left, I have
Cinthia.
And to my right,
Kevin.
And both Cinthia and Kevin are gamers, self-described. And why would you say that you consider yourself a gamer?
I am a social media gamer, if that is an actual thing.
Totally. Yeah.
Yeah. I just play social media games, and I make a habit of actually playing them. Like I dedicate time to it. I get excited about it. I'm very serious about my social media games.
Yeah. And so I put out a call on my personal Facebook to ask if, any gamers I know, let's do this conversation today. And Cinthia goes, I don't know if Candy Crush, does that count? I don't know. I said, yeah, absolutely. And I think that's an important thing to talk about, because when you think gamer, you think like Fortnite. Well, I do anyway, like Fortnite, like the things that are intense. I think about esports, and I don't really personally connect to a lot of that. But there's a whole other side of gaming, which is all like the social gaming and everything, and it is a game. So you are a gamer. So what we're gonna say this time is no game shaming. We're all gamers here, right? Right.
Yes, please.
Cool. So, and Kevin, how do you consider yourself a gamer?
I think I grew up playing a lot of games, like especially when I was younger in high school and university. Like in high school I played Counter-Strike, and in university I played Call of Duty. But I am much more like a casual gamer now, although in kind of like my social circle, like I have friends who work in the industry, so I hear a lot about it. I'm still kind of like keeping tabs on what's happening, but like I tend to choose games that are less committal.
Right. Yeah, I don't really play anything, I was saying to Cinthia earlier, too long. I get hooked on something, and I like something almost repetitive and mindless in a way, where I don't want to kill bosses, I don't want the intense music, I just want a chance to explore. And we were kind of chatting about games like that. Have you ever played Journey?
Yeah.
Yeah, you've played Journey.
I
So
love Journey.
Can you describe Journey?
Journey is really cool. Like I love Journey because like it's not a very long game, but the entire game is designed around being beautiful and having a beautiful experience.
Yeah.
And it's really like it's kind of like it doesn't create too much drama, and when it does, it feels more like a song than like a really, really intense movie.
That's a really nice way to put it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I found that I discovered and played Journey when I was really ill, and I was like in bed for a week basically, and I found it to be the most calming thing. And when you're fevering, it's just like a dream. Like it's just, it was so immersive and so calming, and that's one thing that we have in common is that we use games as like a calming mechanism.
Yes.
Right?
Yes, exactly. It's like almost like it figures to me that it's like a parallel life that you're having. You know what I mean? Without having to put too much effort into. You just like go with the flow. Like it's funny that we were talking about that, and I mean I heard of that game, but I never imagined it was that way. Yeah. And well, you know what I'm doing next when I get home.
Yeah. Nice. Do you have consoles at home?
I have emulators. It's not that I don't have the money to buy them. It's just like I know, as you were saying, you get bored very quickly. I mean, or bored, it's just what after you're done. For me, it's the same thing. So I prefer to have an emulator that I can just install in my computer different games from different consoles, like even like Commodore 64, or Nintendo or stuff like that, or even like newer games. And the only thing I have to do is just buy the controllers and just put them on my USB.
Yeah.
That's it.
Wow.
So I can switch back and forth from different consoles.
That's a great idea. Yeah.
I know it is cheaper.
Yeah. I'm really interested by the streaming games coming out and the platform that Apple's coming out with and Google and so on, because I would love the idea of just like having an app on my TV where I play the game and you can save it or delete it or whatever, but then you're not you don't have to buy a console. And that's a big step for me. That's an investment to me.
Yeah.
Yeah. And how do you own consoles as well as play online, or
I
what kind of
don't
gaming?
own consoles. The funny thing is like my partner at the time bought a PS3, but we ended up not really gaming on it. We just used it for Netflix.
Yeah.
Which is funny.
In movies and stuff.
Yeah. And I have always grown up playing like computer games. games. Like I'm more like familiar with like the input of the mouse and keyboard, right?
Yeah.
And it's just I just find it very versatile because like Steam, like I was a huge proponent of Steam like when it was a new thing, and their support for like indie games and stuff, like games where they were created out of like passion, right? And they're not necessarily like the prettiest or the biggest like endeavors in terms of like production, but they tend to focus more on like getting a very specific enjoyment out of games, because these are developers that like they take something about a game that they grew up loving, like a certain aspect, and they want to put their own spin on it, and they want to really like amplify that feeling, right?
Do you have something like an example in mind? I put you on the spot. Sorry.
Yeah. So like I have a background in engineering, so there was this game that is just really, really soothing and calming, but it's also totally for like nerds. Because it's called Polybridge.
Okay.
And you kind of like, essentially you're just trying to build a bridge with like pieces of wood and like metal joints and cables and stuff. And you're just trying to build a bridge across like a ravine or like a river. And you have a button that you hit test, and like a car drives across it, and then like if the bridge falls down, then you fail, you don't pass, right? And if it drives across, then you get a score depending on like how much material you used, if you could have saved more money, and the strength. It's called Polybridge.
Polybridge.
Yeah.
That's so funny.
Yeah, it's just like this soothing, just like acoustic guitar playing in the background, and you're just like there, just like designing a bridge. And,
It reminds me kind of like Railroad Tycoon or something like that, where it's really gamifying a sim in a way. Like it could be used in industry, like that kind of thing, right?
Yeah.
And it's interesting to me to see when industry starts using gaming as a way to test their stuff, and as a way to like the military uses it for training as well, and like it's so crazy to me that you can practice that, and it's like, oh, this is fun, and like we want to gamify everything now.
Yeah, exactly.
Why not? Why make all your chores hard to do when you could be a game? Yeah, I had I know somebody who has 4 kids and co-parents, and they have an app. I'll have to find the name of it, that gamifies doing chores. And so one time we went out for a movie, and they opened their phone, and it's like bling 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 bling. And he's like, oh yeah, one of my oldest son is doing his chores right now before going to bed, like all at once. And they get certain like points and stuff, and then he has been like rewarding them with certain things as well. But it's funny, like in real time you can see what they're doing and what they're saying they're doing and not. So when you go at home, you check all the things. And yeah, I thought that's a really clever way of gamifying chores. Now you might have to
I know. I'm like, I'm in the middle of an interview, and now I'm hearing all this games here. And turning, and then the chores came, and I'm like, my God, I need to take it out.
Don't worry, you can watch the video later. Well, and we can post links in the comments too.
Yeah. Great.
And so, Cinthia, you have kids, and do they play games?
Yeah, they play the exact games, like the exact same games. My 2 children, 2 of them have autism. I try to teach them like the regular, like Super Mario or games like that I felt comfortable when I was, playing them. And I found that they don't adapt very well to it. I don't think they have a patience for it. So they saw me playing like, Candy Crush or Farmville or whatever those games, and they started downloading their own games. And now they're like, oh, mommy, you are in 3rd, you are in 1st, like I need to beat you. But it's almost like interactive for me. It's like a way to communicate with them through the games as well. They're very, very smart. Like right now I'm at level 4,300 in Candy Crush, for example, right?
And I didn't know there were that many levels.
Yes, and I'm still behind. I'm behind. And they like, one of my son is like in level 600 or whatever, but he's like he needs to play more. But it's not to a point that they get like, upset because I said to stop playing. There's something about that kind of games that differs from like regular, like the gamers that I call them. these games you can stop them and you don't feel bad about it. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
at least in my case, in my children's case,
Mm-hmm.
you don't feel bad about it because you know you're gonna come back.
Yeah.
It's different than you know, PlayStation, and I'm not, again, no game shaming, but when I used to play those games, I used to get so frustrated when my mom or anyone would tell me, once I was an adult, to stop playing. I couldn't, I was like losing my mind. And then, but with this kind of games, it's just different. And again, it helps me communicate with them.
That's
at
cool.
that level. Yeah.
Yeah, I was chatting with CJ Proper, who is the CEO of Tile, and he was saying that he plays Fortnite with his daughter, and that's like a real family bonding
That's cool.
experience. And so maybe gaming isn't necessarily a detraction from family time. Maybe it adds to your family experience of teamwork and learning new skills and
Absolutely.
surpassing each other.
I mean, one thing is about like choosing the game, and the other thing is like you have to choose the time, you know, when and what. It's just a parenting thing, right? And not necessarily just parenting, but yourself.
Yeah.
You know, I mean.
Absolutely. Yeah. What are you playing right now, guys?
What I'm playing right now is, well, I play Candy Crush. Like, it's getting so excited. Because I'm in such a high level right now. Like, honestly, like 4,000 level over. It's like every single level is a hard, or now they call it nightmarishly hard level. So I get stuck in one level sometimes for like 2 days, which is before it's like impossible. You just like pass levels like crazy. Now it's like, oh my God, and I have to like do little tasks in order to get lives, in order to get cheats.
It gets harder and harder.
It gets super hard. Now each level is a hard level, and they're very hard. But that's the magic of it, right? Like, the harder the better for me. It's like, I complain and I'm like, damn it, this level is so hard. But inside I'm like, oh, this is so awesome. You know?
I like the timing games too. Do you ever play those where where you have to make a food and then deliver it to the table or whatever it is?
Yeah.
Where you or you bake something and they have to have a certain number of things in a row and you have to clean tables and it's like a time management game. I love those games.
Yes, it was called Chef something.
Yeah.
It's like similar to Farmville.
Yeah.
Probably like 7 years ago, 5 years ago.
Yeah.
It was very popular, or Cityville or whatever. That you build stuff and you build your restaurant. You have to serve food and all that. Yeah, I play that too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I played The Sims as well. I got, if you want to talk about losing sleep, in my teen years, I played The Sims on my computer until like I was bleary, just like, oh no, I want to design my house. I need to go to work, you know?
Oh my
goodness.
gosh. Yeah, no, I never got into that. I thought it never captured my attention. Like, yeah.
Not for you. What about you? What are you playing, Kevin?
Well, for a while, I was in school, so I hadn't been playing for a long time. But when I was playing a lot of PlayerUnknown's Battlegrounds, which was kind of like the new hotness at the time. But like I met a pretty cool group through a friend, like a local friend, but he had friends kind of like on the East Coast that like were a very consistent, like I could find them online, and there was enough of them that like, we could have a full squad, like within minutes, and it was just like, yeah, and it's like rare.
Okay, roll out.
Yeah. So
wow.
I've always wanted that like that squad shooter experience where like communicating is really, really important, and you're against other full squads and stuff. And like I just kind of like I was like, okay, I'm gonna like get into this because like there's not many chances. Like this is like a social happenstance, right? And it's rare, and like I really, really enjoyed that, and I was kind of sad that like I'm not playing with them. But we all got frustrated with PlayerUnknown's, right? Like promises of optimization and making the game run smoothly were just kind of like left unanswered. You know, like the calls for people to make the game like literally more playable, it was just like the developer just decided to do like marketing, open up the market, add content, you know, stuff that wasn't actually like important to the gameplay. So we started playing this game called Ring of Elysium, which is kind of like a clone, but it had its own little kind of quirks, like you could like ride a snowboard, or like you could have like, you could ride it like a zip line and like other stuff. But it's, the thing is, the most important thing is it was a lot more smooth, right? It was way more, the experience, the gameplay, and just like it was a lot more that made it a lot more accessible in terms of skill. Right? Because I feel like when a game is kind of clunky, you kind of have to adjust how you play to the game.
Right.
Right. When a game is smooth and things they happen the way you expect them to from your controller inputs, it's a lot easier to learn. It's a lot faster to pick up.
Yeah, in the same way that since you said shooter, like if you've ever shot a gun before and you're a sniper and you're out in the real world, you're accounting for wind and other things, and so in a way that's like an allegory, I guess, for a game where if it isn't perfect situation, then you have to account for those other factors and then play as opposed to just playing. Yeah.
And what's worse is that in a game, most of those other factors, like for lag, for instance, is like the bane of every shooter gamer. It's a random factor. Like you don't know when what you see is actually what's going on in the game, right? And that's just like peak frustration. And it's like why people shell out like thousands of dollars for their PCs and stuff. It's just like to fight this one aspect of gaming, right? That just detracts from the whole experience. Yeah.
So thank you for sharing that. That's really cool that you guys have a very different experience of gaming. Before we wrap up, I'm curious to know what does gaming serve for you? What purpose? What do you look for in a game? In like a sentence.
Well, we were kind of talking about this earlier, but for me, it's just like a really easy way to escape.
An escape.
Yeah.
So we're actually going to take this next.
That's funny. Very different games, but very different.
Yeah.
Nice. I think so for me too. And if you were to say, what are you excited about in the future of gaming? Is there something that you're interested in trying that's coming out, like VR, for example, or because I'm obsessed with VR right now.
As a social media player, gamer, I don't think there is much. Our likes are particularly me, in my case, are limited to what you see here. I tend to believe that people who play more complicated games they like to get out of there more. For social game players, it's more like what you have here in just a different little format, just a different change. You know, the levels just remain the same. Don't make it more complicated for us. You know, that's it. So I guess it's just like a different variety of a new Candy Crush with a level that starts in 1 again. That for me is exciting, you know. They went from Candy Crush to Candy Crush Jelly, Candy Crush Saga, Candy Crush Friends, Candy Crush everything.
Really?
So, wow. So just bring another one. Why not? And I will be like excited, just as did like years ago when I started playing. That's pretty much my.
And Journey, you're gonna play Journey, I think.
I am gonna play Journey, and I'm gonna get that chores.
The chore task thing. Yes. Totally. I think it's called like Monster Task or something. We'll find it.
I'll Google it.
And is there anything coming out that you're excited about in the future of gaming?
You know, like I don't really game too much now. I veer away from AAA games because I always get high expectations, pay a lot of money, and kind of ended up kind of disappointed. But something that I will talk about is that I'm excited about for in gaming is the fact that like the generation of gamers that are playing now, and they're like YouTube reviewers and they're writing blogs and they're writing reviews, and it's all done through social media, like through YouTube and through Facebook and stuff. Like they're getting a lot pickier with their games. They're getting a lot more critical with the quality of the games that are coming out, right? And I think that it's a really exciting time because I think that developers, especially like the big developers, they're having no choice but to start to like really listen to their consumers and to like to do better, right? And so like I just kind of want to tell people who are like big gamers, don't shut up. Like keep pushing on. Like we need better games. Like we need to like shut down like pay to win and stuff like that.
And developers don't mess up.
Okay, good. Cool. Well, thank you so much for joining me today, guys. I know this is sort of an unorthodox conversation to have, and this is actually the home of Graham Williams. So thank you for donating the space, Graham. And
Thank you, Graham.
Yeah, absolutely. So tell us in the comments, what are your favorite games? Why do you game? And let's continue this conversation in social. But I think that's it for us right now. Thanks for joining us on Get Connected. See you next week.